This is a top 10 list based off of a poll where over 9,000 people voted for their favorite bounty hunters from Star Wars. At number 10 with 122 votes is Greedo. Although probably the worst bounty hunter on this list in terms of actually being competent at the job, Greedo was persistent with his longing to make something of himself in hopes of living up to his father's earlier successes as a bounty hunter. But despite his persistence, he never achieved his goal, as he almost always found himself getting owned everywhere he went. Whether it was from getting beaten down by little Anakin after spreading a rumor that the human cheated during the pod race, or getting blown away by Han Solo after he threatened to take his life. Actually, one of the main reasons Greedo is so famous within the fanbase is because of the controversy surrounding his scene with Han Solo at the cantina on the basis of who shot first. Basically, in the original release of the movie, Han Solo was the only one to shoot. However, in future releases, George Lucas changed the scene to include Greedo being the first one to shoot, missing Han completely before getting killed himself, half a second later. An interesting factoid about him is that after his death, Greedo's body was taken by the bartender of the cantina, who then ground it up and liquefied the body so that he could try to sell it off as liquor, with only Greedo's head remaining, which was later impaled onto a spike by the same bartender who held a grudge for the Rodian bounty hunter. Greedo's head was later retrieved by a few other bounty hunters who knew him, later giving him a small funeral while they tried to figure out exactly how he died. Reading your guys' comments, it seemed that most people voted for Greedo because he apparently shot first. Also because people liked the sound of his voice, as well as the design of his species, with some of you saying that he looked like a broccoli head. At number 9 with 262 votes is Dengar. For someone who held a reputation for his ruthlessness as a bounty hunter, Dengar was actually quite a cheerful fellow in his younger years. Actually, when he was in his teens, Dengar was a successful swoop racer, making a name for himself within the Corellian system. As a young adult, he took on bounty hunting as sort of a part-time gig, either doing it for the extra credits or for the thrill. His early jobs ranged from escorting valuable cargo for the Belugan Lord Otua Blank, to acting as a security for the Hutt clan on Nal Hutta. Later in his life, Dengar took part in an illegal swoop race where he attempted to prove himself to be a better racer against a fellow Corellian by the name of Han Solo. However, during the race, Han Solo pulled a dirty trick and forced his swoop bike's engine exhaust into Dengar's face, causing severe burns and forcing him to crash, which resulted in even more injuries. The aftermath of the race had Dengar go through surgeries to reconstruct his face, as well as him being banned from ever participating in any professional swoop races due to him participating in the illegal one. As a result, he grew a hatred towards Han Solo and was later forced to do bounty hunting as a main source of income for himself, as it was the only thing that he knew how to do well. The racing incident and the surgeries that he underwent made Dengar into the cruel man that the galaxy would later know him as during his bounty hunting days. He hated Han Solo so much that right before he would kill anyone, he would visualize his victim to be Han Solo. Many of you voted for Dengar because of his looks, seeming to really like his turban and later bandage wrappings around his head look, and also for the fact that he had a sweet accent and that he fought with a giant blaster. At number 8 with 303 votes is IG-88B, or better known simply as IG-88. He was an assassin droid that was given sentience programming. Once activated, he and the other assassin droids of the same design killed their masters and escaped the factory that they were created in. He quickly became a feared bounty hunter, earning the reputation of being one of the best bounty hunters of his time. Because he was a rogue assassin droid, there was a galaxy-wide order to have him shut down, though that didn't stop some clients from hiring him, like Darth Vader, who technically broke the law by not destroying IG-88 when he was within his ship. During his pursuit of Han Solo, IG-88 placed a tracker onto Boba Fett's ship and followed him to Bespin, seeking to kill him as a means of collecting the bounty first. Knowing that he was being followed, Boba set up a trap for the assassin droid, successfully killing IG-88 when he walked into it. IG-88's fried remains were then left for Bespin's Ugnaughts, which were seen in the background of one of the scenes of The Empire Strikes Back. A factoid about him is that he and the other IG-88 droids sought to start a droid revolution by constructing a droid army and hacking into the Empire's superweapons, but their plan failed when they were all destroyed after the destruction of the second Death Star over Endor. Many votes were casted for him because of the mere fact that he was a droid without a master who did his own thing, and also because he was a part of a secret plot to take over the galaxy by having one of his droid brothers take over the second Death Star. At number 7 with 371 votes is Asajj Ventress. Although better known for being Count Dooku's dark side assassin, she later became a bounty hunter after she was betrayed by her former master and had her family wiped out on Dathomir. As a bounty hunter, she became allies with her old-time enemies, from helping Obi-Wan escape Darth Maul's clutches to helping Ahsoka Tano prove her innocence. After losing her red lightsabers, she went on to purchase new yellow ones from the black market. During this time, she grew out her hair, and her reputation as a bounty hunter expanded as she made connections with other hunters and wealthy clients. One of her last missions was dealing with Hondo's pirate gang, after they stole cargo that she was escorting. After that, she would meet an undercover Jedi named Quinlan Vos, who she would ultimately fall in love with and later conspire with to assassinate Count Dooku. Many of you voted for her due to the fact that she was a bounty hunter who could use the Force and that was armed with a lightsaber, also because many of you liked the way that she looked too. At number 6 with 454 votes is Bossk. Bossk was a killing machine from the moment that he was born, as after he hatched from his egg, he devoured all of the other eggs around him, effectively killing all of his siblings. Such an act made his father proud, who himself was a legendary bounty hunter at the time, and the leader of the Bounty Hunters Guild. When he became older, Bossk enjoyed hunting Wookiees for sport. Wishing to diversify his killings, the Trandoshan took non-Wookiee targets when he eventually became a bounty hunter. One of his biggest clients was working directly for the Galactic Empire, as he laid his eyes on capturing key rebellious leaders. His close ties with working for the Empire early on had many higher-ups notice him as well, and his skills such as Darth Vader. When he was old enough, Bossk attempted to take over the Bounty Hunters Guild by murdering his father, though things didn't go as planned, as the faction split up, leaving Bossk with only a portion of his assets and its members. An interesting fact about Bossk is that due to his species biology, he was able to regenerate portions of his body over a period of time, so if his limbs got ripped off by a Wookiee, they would eventually grow back. A few years after the Battle of Endor, Bossk retired from bounty hunting and lived off of the wealth that he had earned himself. Those that voted for Bossk did so because he was basically a lizard with a blaster that was from a species that was born to hunt. At number 5 with 889 votes is Durge. Durge is probably the most powerful bounty hunter on this list based on his physical abilities alone. He is a part of a rare species known as Gendai, which are almost impossible to kill. Durge could get stabbed in the chest with a lightsaber, and have his limbs removed, get decapitated, and even have his entire body get blown up into bits and pieces, and he would still be alive, as his body would slowly regenerate back to its full self. He was also alive for thousands of years. When he was younger, he wanted to become the galaxy's greatest hunter, so he chose to become a bounty hunter. After having his Mandalorian mentor get killed by a group of rival Mandalorians, Durge grew a hatred for them, and went on a mission to wipe them all out. Although he was successful in killing scores of them, he was eventually captured by them and tortured for years on end. He was eventually able to escape his capture, but was forced to bury himself as his body required decades to heal. When he fully recovered, he discovered that the entire galaxy was at war with itself, with the eruption of the Clone Wars. When he found out that the Republic's clone army was cloned from a Mandalorian, Durge decided to align himself with the Separatists, just so he could kill clone troopers to satisfy his bloodlust. He was also an expert at killing Jedi, having thousands of years of experience of doing so. Though he was eventually permanently defeated when Anakin shot his escape pod into a star, which completely obliterated all of Durge's matter, preventing him from regenerating back to life. Many voted for Durge because he was a shape-shifting monster that could not be killed through conventional means, which made him one of the most powerful bounty hunters, and also because he probably had the highest Jedi kill count of any bounty hunter. At number 4 with 1,203 votes is Jango Fett. A prominent Mandalorian who became a bounty hunter, Jango Fett was known for being one of the deadliest killers in the galaxy during his prime. He was such a skilled fighter that he even killed scores of Jedi during battle, killing 5 of them with just his bare hands, a feat so astonishing that it was even remembered by Count Dooku 10 years later, who then decided that Jango would be the perfect template for the clone army after he successfully took out his former fallen apprentice, Komari Vosa. After accepting to be cloned for an entire army, Jango put his bounty hunting career on hold and spent most of his time overseeing and training the growing army. After the clone army was nearly finished, Jango pretty much only took on assassination jobs from Dooku, which mainly involved protecting or advancing the cloning operations on Kamino. Although he couldn't wait to see the clone army in action, this dream was unfortunately cut short for him after he was killed in battle by Mace Windu mere moments before the army's arrival on the battlefield. The common reason why people picked Jango Fett was because he was the template used for the clone army, and as a result had a huge impact on the overall galaxy. He also received votes for his feats in killing and fighting Jedi. At number 3 with 1,220 votes is Embo. He was a Kyuzo bounty hunter who thrived during the Clone Wars. His species biology allowed him to move and jump at speeds and heights that were almost equal to that of a Force sensitive. He also held on to his people's high standard of honor, making him one of the more honorable bounty hunters in the workforce. He stood out with his large circle-rimmed hat, which he wore for more purposes than just looks, as he used it for combat in both defensive and offensive purposes. He also used it once as a sled to catch up with his fleeing target. At times, he was accompanied by his pet Anuba named Marok, who helped him hunt down his targets. He typically was seen carrying a modified bowcaster as well. Most of his votes came from people voting for him due to his hat and how he fought like Captain America with it, using his hat as a shield and as a deadly frisbee by throwing it at his foes. At number 2 with 1,398 votes is Cad Bane. Definitely the most prominent bounty hunter during the Clone Wars era, Cad Bane did more in 3 years than what most do in their entire bounty hunting careers. He was able to infiltrate the Jedi Temple and steal a Jedi holocron, hold a group of senators hostage as a means to rescue Zero the Hutt, escape a Republic prison, and much, much more. He had no morals when it came to his work. If you paid him enough, he'll do anything you asked him, even kidnap infants to be used for cruel experiments. Although his species wasn't known for being great fighters, he made up for his somewhat frail stature with an assortment of gadgets across his body that allowed him to put up a fight with even Jedi. He also was far more intelligent and strategic than most other bounty hunters, planning out his heists and assassinations with far more care than others. Many of you voted for him due to his said intelligence, and also for his calmness and always focusing on completing the job. He was also voted on for his skill in fighting Jedi, as well as being a swagger with his hat. Before we do number 1, we have a few honorable mentions. First is Cade Skywalker for getting 11th place. He was a descendant of Luke Skywalker, who instead of pursuing the life of a Jedi, chose to become a bounty hunter. Second is Daron, mainly because of how unique he is, being a part of a species that were just giant floating mushrooms. And finally we have HK-47, who got the most write-in votes. Well, the second most, a dead meme got the most. It is actually kind of a stretch calling HK-47 a bounty hunter, since he was never truly an independent hired gun that killed for credits. But nonetheless, he was a deadly assassin droid that had a high body count of meatbags. Finally at number 1, with 2,367 votes is Boba Fett. The cloned son of Jango Fett, Boba was brought into the life of bounty hunting at a very young age. He was trained by his father up until he got killed. Afterwards, he was looked after by other bounty hunters until becoming old enough to run his own crew when he was in his early teenage years, which in itself is very impressive. During his young adulthood, Boba acquired a full set of Mandalorian armor for himself, quickly becoming one of the galaxy's most renowned bounty hunters. During a mission that went wrong, Boba Fett fought Darth Vader and survived their confrontation by using his wits, which impressed the Dark Lord of the Sith and earned his respect, who went on to have Boba Fett be his go-to whenever he needed a bounty hunter. Vader hired Boba multiple times, from kidnapping Juno Eclipse to tracking down Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon. During Han Solo's rescue mission, Boba Fett fell into the Sarlacc pit, and although it seemed like that was the end of him, he actually survived by using his armor's durability and equipment to blast his way out. After recovering, he returned to bounty hunting again, but soon after, making a promise to a dying friend, he decided to become Mandalore, leader of the Mandalorians, leading them during the Yuuzhan Vong War. Many of you voted for Boba due to his armor representing the Mandalorian culture and for his extraordinary skill in being a bounty hunter that earned him respect of many of his fellow peers and even Darth Vader himself. Thanks for watching this top 10 list based completely off of your guys' votes. Let us know what the next top 10 poll and results video should be based off of.